My name is Imaan and I'm interviewing Kate Wogan. Today for Takeover Radio 103.2 FM. Kate Wogan is a children's author of the Milo series. Good afternoon, Kate.
Good afternoon, Imaan. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Being at home has been fun, but I'm missing going to school. One of my favourite rooms is the library, as I love to read. What made you decide to write children's books and not adults?
That is a very good question. And I have to be very honest and say, actually, it was my own children, because the two children, Milo and Mary, in the Milo series, are based on my kids, because they always say to write what you know. So when I had children, they're older now, they're 8 and 10 now, but when they were very small, I used to tell them stories when they were behaving a little bit not quite so well as I'd have liked them to. And all the stories were based on stories that my granny used to tell me, and about imps and goblins and fairies, and about how they would connect to the manners that I was then doing at the time. But she never used to tell me off. She used to just say, there's a goblin at the table, or there's an impolite imp in this house. What are we going to do about it? So that's why I started writing these books.
Okay. When you write for children, what inspires you to start writing?
Well, these particular books, what inspires me is how much fun you can have with little kids, because it's really important, particularly if you're trying to teach them something, not to be too dictatorial, which means not to be too rough and to tell them exactly what it is, but you need to inspire them to use their imaginations and try and inspire them to understand what you're trying to say in a really fun, engaging way. And the mischief makers, who are the goblins and the imps and the beastly bogles in the 3 that we currently have out at the moment, they are all super naughty. So Milo and Mary are playing at Granny's house, or in the playground with Granny, and wherever they might be, and they are visited by these mischief makers, and then things start to go a little bit wrong. And in the middle of each book, we have this uh-oh moment. And when you're very little, uh-oh is a really good phrase, because everybody says it, don't they? You say uh-oh to this and uh-oh to that. And that's exactly when they know when things are going a little bit wrong in Granny's house. And it's really fun to read these stories to little people, because they can recognize when things are going wrong, and they have some kind of say in how things finish. So what inspires me in these books was to try and make them as fun and colourful and full of burping and farting and general merriness, and they look beautiful, because I had a wonderful artist that I worked with too. That's also really important.
That's brilliant, thank you. When you were younger, did you read a lot of books?
Do you know, I really did. I loved reading, and I'm really pleased to hear that you like reading too, because it's so important to kind of fire up your imagination. And I particularly like books which had a little bit of drawings in them. You know, sometimes, particularly when you get older, it's all about the words. It's always fun to have a little bit of drawings and colour in them to kind of spark your imagination. And it's always nice to be able to read a book and to do your own, particularly in these times when in lockdown stuff, you can kind of escape from things a little bit. Is that how you feel about books?
Yeah.
Yeah?
The Milo series is made up of 3 amazing books that are full of mischief. What made you use a granny as one of the main characters?
Well, firstly, because she's based on my granny, not my children's grannies, who are very glamorous ladies, but Milo and Mary's granny is a kind of magical character who always makes everything right, and my granny always made everything right. It always made you feel safe. She was quite a magical person, so I based Granny on her. Also, I think sometimes if it's your mummy or daddy or carer or your big brother or sister, and if they're talking to you about manners, it can be a bit telly-offy. So having a granny do it just made it feel a little bit more fun.
That sounds like my granny.
Really? Do you have a wonderful... Is she magical too?
Yeah.
Good. It's wonderful to have a magical granny. I'm glad to hear it.
Milo is 5 years old and he has a younger sister called Mary. Why did you think that it was important for Milo and Mary to work together as siblings?
Do you have siblings, Imaan?
Yeah.
Do you think it's important that you kind of get into these things together? Because I think it was really fun to make them see these challenges together. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's also quite nice to be able to. If have you got younger siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only
because it
one.
only more that one will do. I think these books are really fun to read to younger siblings because you can try and teach them how all about manners and try and make them see the moment and the fun kind of phrases like bam and wham and things that are in the books. And they're really easy to read for bedtime too, which was really important for us, so that older siblings and could read with the younger siblings and everyone could look at it together and talk about the goblins, for example, who kind of eat with their noses. I mean, that's just terrible manners, but it's fun to have the discussion and it's fun to spot all the little things going on in all the pictures together. So I thought they should go in together. Plus, I have two children, a boy and a girl, so it was important not to leave one out.
The books teach children to use their manners. My favourite manners are please and thank you. What are yours?
I think please and thank you is possibly the most important because it's very important about how you speak to other people in the world, your teachers and your friends, and it's a kind way to be. But are the other books, the table manners, which I know my granny was very strict about. I don't know about yours. The Beastly Bogles, is about playing nicely, which is also really important for smaller children, particularly, and they're sharing and learning how to say, you know, please can I play with this, or will you play with me, and not using their hands and their fists and raised voices when they're very small, like 2, 3, 4 years old. So we started with those, but also in the series coming up, we have one called the Tantrum Trolls, where things get very, very naughty indeed. And we have a special Christmas one coming. We have the Fabulous Fairy coming. So there's lots and lots of manners that are very important. But I agree with you. I think please and thank you is definitely the best place to start.
Why do you think it is important to have manners?
I think it's important to have manners because it tells people as you go older who you are, and it teaches you to have respect for the people you're talking to, whether it's as I say, your teachers or your friends, or even as you get older, people you might work with in the future, people you'll be at school with in the future. So it's really important in the way we all communicate together to be kind. And manners generally, I mean, it's a little word for lots and lots of things, isn't it? Manners, but generally it's mainly about being kind and appreciating how other people might feel about your behaviors and how you are. So I think it is really important. And it's also really important to do it when children are very young, because then it becomes just something they do rather than something that they have to be told off for, I think.
Why did you decide to illustrate your books in the way that you did?
That actually wasn't really my decision. I work with a wonderful artist called Helen Faulkner, and she has creativity. She is an amazing artist, and I can't draw at all. So I did need to find someone who could make these come to life. And we agreed that we needed really bright, colourful, easy to understand pictures, and also the mischief makers need to be like super cuddly and super fun, because even though they're quite naughty and they're the ones that kind of introduce all the bad manners and things, they also need to be really likable. And it's fun to hear kids say things like, oh, there's a goblin here, or there's an impolite imp here, or there's a bogle in the playroom, because it's really fun. It's really important to have beautiful, bright pictures, particularly for like storybooks for little people, particularly at bedtime. So it's much more fun and engaging, and they can really see what's going on.
When you were writing the books, did you know straight away what they would look like?
Well, I knew that how the kids would look because they were based on my kids. And it made my storytelling easier to kind of imagine my kids. I mean, as I say, they're older now, so they probably would disagree with me, but, so they look like my children. My granny looks very much like my granny is. And as the books develop through, we'll start introducing more characters from more backgrounds and more ethnicities and different types of places in the world, so that there's lots more kids represented in the stories moving forward. But these first three are very much my family. So you write what you know, and it's wonderful how people have really taken to them and people love them.
Kate, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak to me. I'm sure that everybody is looking forward to reading your book.